Secretary General, the Honorable Antonio Guterres, Madam President of the General Assembly, Her Excellency Marina Espinosa, Madam President of ECOSOC, Her Excellency Rhonda King, distinguished delegates. 2 short years ago, I stood in this chamber and declared an international humanitarian emergency in Dominica. After an indirect strike by the Category 5 Hurricane Irma, followed a mere 2 weeks later by a direct strike from Category 5 Hurricane Maria, one of the most powerful storm systems ever recorded. This hurricane literally reduced our homes, schools, hospitals, roads, bridges, general infrastructure, and our economy to rubble. In the space of a few hours, Maria wiped out 225% of Dominica's GDP. Those who saw Dominica in the dark days immediately after the hurricane asked out loud how or if we could ever recover. As a leader, I was forced to face unprecedented and unimaginable devastation of the economy, the natural and built environments, and in the face of it all, to motivate a demoralized population. Today, I am happy to report that the Economic Commission of Latin America and the Caribbean, ECLAC, has predicted that the Dominican economy will grow by 9% this year. Our infrastructure is being built. New homes and schools have gone up, and a new modern hospital is under construction. The new structures are stronger and better than before in order to make them more hurricane resistant. Dominica has defied the odds, and we are on a clear growth trajectory. Our national recovery has been led by the resilient and resourceful people of Dominica at home and abroad, who were determined not to be defeated by the mighty forces of nature. I also gratefully acknowledge the support of friends in the international community. From the seeds of Maria's destruction grew my administration's policy initiatives and actions to build the first climate-resilient nation in the world and to usher Dominica into a bright future. Madam President, despite our social, economic, and environmental risks, vulnerabilities, and precarious positions in the macro-global framework, international rules compel small island developing states like mine and those of my Caribbean brothers and sisters to compete with and on the same terms as the world's largest economies. The confluence of these factors, when combined with the impacts of climate change, has placed many SIDS at risk of not achieving the SDGs. Indeed, our very survival is in jeopardy. As we move toward the review of the Samoa pathway, I point to these glaring inequalities as contemplated by SDG 10 and urge that this multiplicity of risks and threats be borne in mind in crafting and supporting a path to sustainable development for small island developing states. While Katowice may have stopped the tide from turning against the Paris Agreement, the global community must now scale up ambition and joint efforts to hold mean temperatures in the range of 1.5 degrees Celsius. Recognizing that we are on the front line of the battle against climate change, now is the time for the global community to take decisive action to support SIDS in building capacity, ensuring clear, predictable sources of financing, developing low-carbon technologies, offering a future to our young people, providing a decent standard of living for our citizens, and securing our sustainable development. In that regard, Madam President, I propose 3 specific suggestions. The first is for the development of a well-defined financing instrument for SIDS with uncomplicated procurement and reporting processes aimed at catalyzing the rollout of blue and green economy activities. This would also be geared at enabling the implementation of the SDGs and facilitating adaptation and mitigation in respect of climate change impacts. I make this call even while saluting the work of the Green Climate Fund. The second is for the specific provision to be made for SIDS in the upcoming review of the Addis Ababa Financing for Development agenda. This carve-out should recognize and take cognizance of the peculiar circumstances of SIDS. For the reality is that the much touted lever of innovative financing, characterized by insurance instruments and private sector financing, has limited application in SIDS and LDCs. Third is the creation of a mechanism for countries of the Global South to share knowledge, best practices, low-carbon technologies, and the services of national experts in helping each other to find solutions to the common problems of climate change and development. I reiterate my view, stated after Maria, that the global population must see itself in a war against climate change. As with any other war, we must take the threat seriously and mount a commensurate response. We must employ defensive positions with appropriate policies and programs. We must deploy human, technical, and financial resources to the front lines. We must build capacity and resilience. We must equip our troops, who are our populations, to adapt and mitigate. Most of all, we must recognize that the brotherhood of multilateralism requires us to fight as a unified army. The global community and the multilateral system which serves it must leave no one behind, as the casualties of the climate war are particularly the vulnerable populations of the small island developing states. Madam President, if we can make progress along such lines during this very important session, then finally we would have moved the issue from pending to action. Madam President, I so plead. Thank you very much.